Night number 4, class number 4, reboot your spirituality. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Devorah.
Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you all for this wonderful rebooting experience. And let's jump right into tonight's topic. We have already covered rebooting your vitality, rebooting your mindset, and rebooting your relationships. Amy, hopefully Wesley caught you all up, or if you noticed that he's a little bit better today as a husband, you know why. It's because he sat through the class. But tonight we get to that final piece, and if vitality was the earth element, and mindset was the wind element, and relationships was the water element, then tonight we get to spirituality, which is the element of fire and really how we transcend.
There's no slides up yet.
We'll share the screen shortly. So that's what we're going to try to cover tonight. And rebooting our spirituality means making a firm decision that this year we're going to try to get a little bit closer to God. We're going to try to get a little bit closer to our neshama, our souls, to get a little bit more clarity. Spirituality it's a frightening place. In my book, I write about spiritual acrophobia. People are afraid. What's it going to be like? What's it going to, I don't want to take on more, especially because spirituality, and we'll speak about this tonight. As Jews, we know that what makes the most sense as Jews is to embrace the spiritual path that involves more Judaism. And that's scary for us because we don't know what that means. What does that mean about us? Does it mean that I'm going to have to turn into a person that I'm not comfortable with? And, obviously nothing could be farther from the truth. A person finding their spiritual path is finding a path that is comfortable for you. And a lot of the fear behind growing spiritually really it's unwarranted. And a lot of it is also media induced, right? We know that the media, especially, with all of the Netflix series and things that came out this year, we know that religion is under attack. Even very, very spiritual people, especially you talk about like the younger woke generation, you ask them, are you spiritual? Oh yeah, I'm spiritual. Are you religious? Religion is has become like a bad word. So, use the language that you want. Everyone has to have the language that they feel comfortable with. But if you've stopped growing spiritually, then you're missing out on a large part of your purpose, because that is part of why we're put in this world, to discover that mystery, to discover that part of ourselves that is bigger than anything in this tangible space, this physical tangible space. There's something beyond, there's something bigger, there's something greater. We're here on this world to plant seeds for eternity. And the part of planting seeds for eternity is raising ourselves above the here and the now, and really trying to touch something that is infinite, and to discover that along the way, even though it certainly is difficult and may not come naturally. It does come naturally, but may not come throughout our day-to-day, the way we live it as Westerners, as Americans. So let's share the screen right now. And we're going to share immediately to the right screen. Here we go. What is a spiritual practice? Like we did the other nights, we want to define our terms. So what may be included in a spiritual practice? What is part of a spiritual practice? So you want to go ahead with this?
Yeah, and I also just wanted to say before we jump into that this is what's so powerful. I feel like I'm constantly this voice, but what's so powerful about the reboot of spirituality at this time is that God actually, it's Hashem is referred to during this time as Hamelach Basadeh, like a lot of times, which literally means the king is in the field. Like a lot of times when it feels like it might be more difficult to reach out to that spiritual place, and we're going to make it tangible tonight what spirituality really is. But if it feels more difficult, now is the time that it's actually quite accessible. And what we're told during this time is all we need to do is just open up a little crack, the eye of a needle, and then God can open up doors that are as big and as great as palace gates. So this is a wonderful time to just kind of show like I'm in the game and then see where that relationship leads us to.
That is an amazing point. Before you read, I just want to echo something you said, because you brought up a great point. I think that it's really important for all of us to really put out there that spirituality is tricky in the sense that it isn't always there and isn't always available for us the way we want it. And you can search for spirituality and come up empty, and you could not be searching for it and it can hit you. So part of the idea of developing a spiritual practice is that you are doing routines, habits and routines, and that it's part of your life, that you are always making yourself a vessel to be ready and to be there when we're given that gift of spirituality. And it's really such an important point, because so many people are searching and they want to. I one of the things I always say right around Shavuot time is, if you remember when the Jewish people stood right by Mount Sinai. So it says that God says, surround Mount Sinai, but don't come up onto the mountain. And then it says God comes down onto the mountain. And the Torah is teaching us in its mystical and hidden way, the Torah is teaching us that that's the way spirituality works. All we can do is find our way to the mountain. And once we're there, once we're at the mountain, once we establish and we say, okay, Hashem, I'm here, I'm at the foot of the mountain, and now I will wait for you to come. And it might not be the day that I try. It might not happen on Rosh Hashana. But if you're there on Rosh Hashana, it may happen on Yom Kippur. If you're there on Yom Kippur, it may happen, whenever, by the Hanukkah candles, or when you're least expecting it. So we are not always in control of feeling spiritual, but we are in control of being there and standing and being present at the foot of the mountain.
And then just to tie the bow on that whole idea, and that is that there's this beautiful Psalm 27, that we say from the time actually of the first day of Elul, which is this month, and it goes all the way until the last day of the holiday of Sukkot. We say this beautiful prayer. And one of the things that we say in it is, one thing I ask of you, God, is that I should be able to sit with you and dwell with you. And the commentaries say that this word of that I ask, that I request from you, I beseech from you, is avakesh. And the commentaries tell us that this word avakesh means that even if I don't feel it, even if I think I don't feel it, even if it doesn't really, you say, I want to live in the house of God, I want to be more godly, I want to be more godlike. What does that mean? But avakesh, say the different commentaries, is that everybody has that yearning. And it's there. It's just a matter of how much you bring that yearning to the forefront. But everybody, somebody can't say, I don't have any spiritual, desire inside me. It's there. It's just a matter of how much we can uncover it. And this is a beautiful time to really try to uncover that.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So what is a spiritual practice? What do we mean when we say a spiritual practice? Go for it.
Yeah. So a spiritual practice is really anything that makes you more aware of and connected to God. Now we know that, I'll get there for the third point, but anything that makes you feel like your soul is on fire, you're feeling more spiritual. The most common way that we connect to our spiritual practices is through mitzvot. The word mitzvah actually comes from the word tzav, which really means connection. That's the entire point of the different commandments. God gives us 613 commandments in the Torah. And really, they're all, I don't even like to call them commandments. I like to call them points of connection, because every one of them is really there for us to tap into our spirituality. And if we think about what we're doing and we think about how is this connecting me to more spirituality, whether it's something that's more, deeply connecting us to our relationship with God, it might be connecting us deeper to our relationship to ourself, or to somebody else, to another person. It could be a commandment in any three of those realms. But if it's one of the mitzvot, it's meant for a point of connection. There is something spiritual that is tugging and that is pulling and that is creating spiritual waves and movement through that very action.
I want to comment on something you just said, but I'm going to wait till after you get to number 3.
Well, why don't you could take down the last three?
Fine. Okay. So the first one makes you more aware of and connected to God. The second one gets you in touch with your soul. Really, the first two are very much the same thing, except depending on, some people are more comfortable with the concept of their soul rather than getting in touch with God. To some people, thinking about God is overwhelming, or thinking about God brings up images maybe that they got from other religions. So some people are more comfortable with the idea of connecting to their soul. The third one, which is what Devorah brought up, is performance of mitzvot, specifically ones that are bein adam l'makom. Bein adam l'makom means between man and God. So I just want to clarify something over here. When I wrote when we put down the first two things, makes you aware of and connected to God, what I was thinking more in that sense is, as we'll see shortly, really communicating or really making your relationship with God real. And the reason that I say that, and the reason why I said performance of mitzvot, specifically ones that are bein adam l'makom, between man and God, like prayer, or things that necessarily aren't intuitive from a human interpersonal place, is the reality is, and again, this is with all due respect to what you just said, and I agree fully, but that being said, those who are not who don't feel a sense of connection to God and to their soul, who say, okay, you know what, I don't feel spiritual, so I'm just going to settle with giving charity or doing other people favors.
Okay, so I
right?
think
I just want to finish that point. So that is a beautiful. It's a beautiful. All mitzvot are beautiful. All mitzvot are equal. However, we do want people to be growing closer and closer to their connection with God, to that spiritual realm, and not just say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with God, I'm not comfortable with spirituality, so I'll just be a Jew, by doing, nice things, sort of leaving God out of the picture.
Right. No, it's not contradictory to what I said at all. It's not even a but. It's more like an and also. I think maybe it just might be helpful to discuss for just a moment, what does it even mean to get in touch with your soul? If somebody is not feeling, if someone's listening and they're saying like, what are they talking about? Like, what does that mean, getting in touch with my soul? How would you define that?
That's a good question. I think that, well, first, when we're speaking about connecting with God, so we know that there's a concept within Judaism called dveikut, which is what often you would hear from other religions as being, you'd call it enlightenment, would be the Buddhist way to say it, or maybe a term that people are kind of more of a new agey term. But there definitely is an experience of going through life with an awareness that you are walking through this world hand in hand with a force that is greater.
Okay.
That instead of always reacting to the world, instead of being a victim of your life, but actually the world is taking shape around you, based on the fact that there is a God, based on that there is this interaction between you and God, and therefore your life will take shape based on that. The fact that you can pray and see a change in your life. And when we're speaking about getting in touch with your soul, it's, in a sense, almost even a greater awareness of God, that it's not God up there. People point, where's God? Oh, up in the sky. It's not God in the sky. But where's God? Like the famous line from the great Rebbe, the Kutzker Rebbe. He called over one of his students and he said, "Yeah, student, Daniel, where's God? Point to God." So the student pointed up. Or no, the student said, "Oh, God, Rebbe, what do you mean? God is everywhere." So the Kutzker Rebbe said again, no. Where's God? The student said, "Where God? God is up and down and here and there and everywhere." And the Kutzker Rebbe said, "Incorrect. You know where God is? God is wherever you let him in." And I think there's a transition when a person is working on becoming more spiritual, when they stop, when the conversation, the nature of the conversation, the imagery, even though it's not real imagery, but the sense is not, I don't pick my head up like this and stretch my neck when I'm trying to have a conversation with God. It becomes more of an inwardly directed feeling. And that's really when you've touched on your soul.
Okay, I hope that helped. That was good.
Okay, so when we talk about a spiritual practice, anything that makes you aware and connected to God, gets you in touch with your soul, performance of mitzvot, but with a specific emphasis on the ones that are not necessarily interpersonal, but the ones that are more God-directed. Torah study. I'll let them just...
Which is actually one of the commandments.
Which is also one of the commandments, yes. But realize that Torah study is more than just Jewish education. Torah study is not about self-help. In fact, a person can learn Torah and be learning things that are not necessarily even relevant to their life. But Judaism teaches, Jewish tradition teaches, and again, I write about this in the book as well. I'm sorry for always mentioning the book, but I write this, that Torah study itself is a form of direct connection to God. And then, not only that, but any direct work that you are doing that will improve, I wrote improve twice, sorry, that will improve your character and help you move beyond your ego. So anytime that you say, okay, I want to work on my character, I want to become a better person, not only nicer to others, but I want to become more godlike, I want to become more godly, I want to let go of the mundane, and I want to experience that sweetness of something greater. So anything that will help you accomplish this can be considered a spiritual practice. Maybe I left something off the list. This is not an exhaustive list. If you have something else that you think should be added to the list, bivakasha, please, tell me, let me know.
Well, I guess I'm thinking a lot of people will say that they, like, when they connect with nature, they find that extremely spiritual. So I think, again, what you said before, that's what I was, I wanted to explain to everybody, is that when it connects, if you're just experiencing nature and not making any type of connection between nature and the Almighty, then like, what kind of spirituality is that? But when you're experiencing like a beautiful sunset or, whatever it is, and you're acknowledging that God has given you that gift, and you feel that godliness, with you, and allowing you to experience that, then that becomes very spiritual.
And that is a great segue to the next slide, which may be a shocker, but self-care is not spirituality. What do I mean? Don't fly off the handle, don't get upset, don't start throwing things at your computer. If I would hold up this picture to most Americans, and I would say, I don't know why I said Americans, to many people, I would hold up this picture and I would say, do you think that this picture is spiritual? Does this picture evoke a sense of spirituality? Well, show me give me a nod. What do you think? Do you think there's something spiritual about it? Good, Wesley says no. Nancy, what do you say? What do you think?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Daniel? Mario? Where's Oren Pesach? Joni, what do you think? No. Devin? I think many people would say, especially the way that certain practices have been packaged and branded, and the reason why I said American earlier, Westerners, is because we live in a culture that has done an incredible job at somehow blurring the lines between self-care and spirituality, and giving spiritual people, or people that are looking for spirituality, outlets that feel spiritual but are actually just other forms of self-care. There's nothing wrong with self-care. That's just so Monday night, and now it's Thursday night, right? So therefore, right, when we talk about meditation, everyone hears meditation. Ooh, meditation, it's so spiritual. Right? Mindfulness, yoga, right? Yoga is like the new religion. I love yoga. Yoga is amazing. Yoga is great, right? Or like you said, relaxing outdoors, nature. All of these things, can they be spiritual? Yes. Were they founded on spiritual practices at their origin? Yes. But let's not confuse that yoga with, I just went into, give me a good store. A good, what are these? I just put my Athena.
Oh, Lululemon.
Lululemon yoga pants, right? And now I'm going to go and grab my Starbucks and go to yoga class, and suddenly I feel all spiritual. That was my spirituality for the day.
Mm-hmm.
That's not uncommon. It is not uncommon, right? I am so woke and spiritual, right? In fact, I'm not even gonna have Starbucks. I'm gonna go to the mom and pop coffee shop where the coffee is so strong that it'll keep me up for days, and it's only made with organic fungi. That's like a new coffee, no? It's like mushroom coffee.
I have not heard about this coffee.
And
no.
then I'm gonna go right to my so in the world that we live in, they've branded that now as being spiritual. Again, it can be. I'm not saying it is not, but it's only spiritual if there is some thread that connects it to actual real connection to God, your soul, and your own personal growth.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's great, but it's just self-care.
It's funny that this conversation is happening tonight because I was meeting with somebody today, and she, she's on a journey, and she was saying that at some point she started feeling, she was a big yogi. She loved yoga. But at some point she started feeling like as she was growing in her Judaism, she started feeling like yoga was like very far off from what she was believing. And so she took like a very long hiatus from it. And today she decided, or this week she decided she was going to go back. And she said, actually, she was so surprised to see that instead of her, thinking like, oh, this yoga, like it doesn't work for me anymore. She actually said that because she had been on a journey for like, a year and a half Jewishly, the yoga actually meant so much more to her. Like she felt so much more fueled and she felt God in her in a whole new way. So I guess to your point, when you're having that real connection to spirituality, when you're really growing, when you're really like connecting and plugging into the real source and not into a fake outlet, then the other pieces that can be spiritual then actually also create waves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, the same thing with meditation. We're going to talk in a moment about spiritual meditation. But let's just remember, right? Meditation, the way meditation is taught for the most part, in the United States of America, meditation is a set of breathing breathing or mantras to help us relax our mind, become calm, right? And really slow down our process of thinking. It's a beautiful thing. It's healthy. It's amazing. I encourage you, do it. But doing that alone is not spiritual. It's not spiritual unless you know how to fuse it with spirituality, which we're going to speak about in a moment. Okay, so now we know that for a person to become more spiritual, there's many ways to do it. However, your best bet, if you're looking to take on more spirituality, become more spiritual, your best bet is mornings and evenings, the bookends of the day. That's usually when the magic happens, because during the day we're not meant, right? We're not meant to live in ashrams, and we're not meant to not be part of this world, right? Even within Judaism, right? That's one of the things that is so beautiful about Judaism. I always say that the uniqueness and the challenge of Judaism, what makes Judaism so unique, and again, I don't know too much about other religions, but I'm quite sure that Judaism of all religions is the one that focuses both on extreme spirituality and transcendence, as well, coupled with deep integration into society. And I think that usually you find with spiritual practices that they are either or. Okay, so, and again, those of you who are more familiar with other religions, maybe you know more about that than I do. But morning is definitely a time for you to step out, or before you step in, you want to create for yourself, the way I like to think about it is creating for yourself a backdrop of spirituality by which the entire day, right? Once you establish that God consciousness in the morning, then the rest of your day is up against that backdrop. Okay, so how does a morning routine look? Let's go through this quickly. So first, nitilat yadayim. Very easy, but person wakes up in the morning and they do the ritual hand washing. There's something about water and this purification process that as you're doing it, you pour back and forth 6 times on your hands, 3 on each side. And then there's something about that. Again, you should know there are Jews in this world that go to the mikvah every single day. Did you know that? They go to the mikvah every single day. If you're ready to start doing that, I'm not sure why you're on this class, but but again, that is a real. I mean, that's big time. I don't do that, but there are. But at least a little hand washing, right? So that is like this little purification ritual.
It's more than purification, because it really is elevating. Most things that we do throughout the day we're using our hands. So it's elevating, and it's a certain awareness that every action that we're going to be taking is now like with God in it, because we're starting off that motion, bringing God in through our hands. And then as we continue with our activities, most of them through our hands throughout the day, thank God for the gift of our hands, it just elevates all of those activities.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love that. And now, depending on how much time you have, if you can set aside an hour or 2 hours in the morning, we know people who are work a full-time job and get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, and they have a long spiritual routine in the morning. But even if you have an hour, even if you have a half an hour, you can take different pieces of this. If you are into traditional prayer, either in English or in Hebrew, if you like traditional prayer, so they're the classics: Moda'ani, the morning blessings, Shema, the Amidah. And again, everyone has to pray according to what they feel comfortable with, what they could connect with. It's not about how much you say, it's not about quantity, but it is about quality, and really trying to get into it and connect with it. Some people, because they don't understand the Hebrew, don't like the Hebrew and they want the English. Some people specifically don't want the English. Some people feel connected to the Hebrew even if they don't understand what the Hebrew means. That's okay too. I always say, a couple of years ago, right, this is all within our memory, probably less than 5 years ago, what was the most popular song out there? It was a song in Korean called Gangnam Style, right? You know what Gangnam Style means? Neither do I. Doesn't matter, right? I grew up, my parents used to listen to Enrique Iglesias, right? And he sang in Spanish. I didn't know what he was talking about. So we don't need to necessarily get, right? Sometimes the words themselves are beautiful. I just want to say, at a more serious note, I once heard an interview with a singer who sings in Sanskrit. One of the most, and she sings extremely, extremely spiritual music. And she admitted to the fact in the interview, she says, I don't know what all the words mean. But it doesn't stop me. She's like, I know. She's like, there's something about the sounds, there's something about the words that I find soothing. And you can fall in love with prayer even if you don't know what the Hebrew means, but just because the sounds, they awaken your neshama. Your neshama knows what it's saying,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And along those lines also, it's not, if you don't have too much time, don't get discouraged either, because one line of just really giving it a moment of thoughtfulness and mindfulness to that moment is also very powerful.
Yes. Another option is what's called hitbodedut or hispodedus, and that is you seclude yourself and you just have free flow conversations with Hashem. You speak to Hashem about what's on your mind in your own language very, very comfortably. Meditation. What about meditation? If you're not into prayer, you're not into hispodedus, but you do meditate. So how can you make that meditation a little bit more spiritual? So over here, try to integrate into your meditation a mantra that will actually connect you to Hashem. So here are a couple of classic examples that are brought in the ancient Jewish texts. Hashem Elokechem Emet. God is truth. Or Shiviti Hashem Lenegdi Tamid. I place God in front of me always. Tamim Tiyeh Im Hashem Elokecha. This one I specifically love because it has the double M sound, and apparently scientifically the M sound, that's why in Buddhism they go There's something about the M sound, that the vibration of the M sound. So when you have this word tamim, it's a great word because you get that M feeling. Tamim tiem Hashem lekecha, be whole together with God. Horeini Hashem darkecha, show me your ways, Hashem. So sometimes just using these as a mantra. So what you can do is, if you already have a meditation practice, you don't have to start with this. But what you can do is do your breathing until you find that your mind is quieting down, until you're getting into it, and then slowly, slowly allow these lines to come to you. If you're interested in this, by the way, if you go back on the Empowered Jewish Living podcast, probably from about a year ago, a little bit over a year ago, we did a series on Jewish meditation, and there are actually 2 podcasts. I posted 2 of those classes up. So on the podcast, there is a 2-part class on Jewish meditation, and we actually learned some texts together that describe different methods of Jewish meditation. Like we said before, Torah study is spiritual connection. You're binding your knowledge and your mind with the mind of God, and then journaling. And you want to journal your personal growth goals for the day.
I want to add in by Torah study that even if you have a book by your night table and you're reading 2 sentences a day, that's a Torah thought. That's a fantastic goal. You don't have to be, I mean, obviously the more the better, but even if it's just consistent, small, tangible, a little bit, and you know that every single day you've cracked open a Torah book, it's what to be proud of.
I have 2 more slides to share with you, but I just want to pause now if anyone has any questions or comments until this point. Okay. So that is morning routine, and obviously, if you're really getting serious about your spirituality, you want it to happen something in the morning. Like I said, it creates that backdrop for the day. Evening routine is also important. There isn't as much activity there, but a couple of things to infuse your final moments. If you go to sleep spiritual, chances are you'll wake up spiritual as well.
A lot of the self-help peeps out there who are, not necessarily connecting it to spirituality, but this is really the 2 things that they'll talk about, just your morning routine and your nighttime routine, like the bookends of your day, how important they are. When you start off your morning and your night and you infuse them both with spirituality, it's like, it's such a different, you can't even compare the quality of your day. So it ends with this beautiful bow around your day, which is the bedtime Shema.
The bedtime Shema, by the way, can take you 1 minute or it can take you 10 minutes. There's this little picture over here on the side is actually a card. You can find this. You can order this online. There's a lot of different versions of this. I mean, the text is the same, but just the graphics.
There's lots to be said. I mean, if you're listening to this and you're not currently saying Shema at all, so I would say we would recommend just starting very, very small, even with just the words Shema at night. Then as you grow, you can add more and more to your to what you're saying at night. But I remember a couple of years ago, an Instagram blogger reached out to me and she just said, like, how do we create, feelings for our children around the Shema time? And she said, I used to say Shema with my child, but we kind of like outgrew that. It's so babyish, it's such like baby tunes and everything. And I had to kind of explain on the live that we did together that it's not, the tune is irrelevant. If you find that the tune is like a little bit babyish or childish, maybe the tune has been done that way just so that the child will become familiar with it.
Like we said the other night with dipping the apple in the honey.
Exactly. Right. But if you look at the words, I mean, these are words from our Torah. These are words that we say, not just, they're actually, the Shema itself is said in the morning and in the night. And they just talk, they're such beautiful and comforting words as we go to sleep. And for people who struggle with anxiety or for people who feel like, what's tomorrow going to bring? Like, the Shema is really the best way to just calm your own nerves and just feel like this security blanket wrapped around you. It's so powerful. And if you just look at the words in English and see what it's saying, but it's not only the battle cry about, God being one, but it's about how, God is how we love God and how God is always watching out for us. And it's really a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Okay. Forgiveness. So over here, this is a short prayer where we say, there's a text for this. I forgive anyone who has hurt me and whoever has done any wrong, whether deliberately, by accident, by word, or by deed, in this incarnation or previous ones, may know and be punished on my account. So forgiveness, think back through your day and just say, I forgive. I forgive the people in my life. I forgive the people that hurt me today, that hurt me previously. There is something about letting go of grudges that also connects you to that place that's beyond your ego. The more that you can let go to those things, the more that you really sense who you really are. Your authentic self. Mm-hmm. And then finally, what's called cheshbon hanefesh. And again, this can be something that takes 5 minutes. It can take 10 minutes. You can journal this or not. But what that means is really just doing a quick review in your mind of your entire day from the morning that you woke up, and really just doing a quick fast forward recap run through and thinking to yourself, this was right. That was bad. You can do it in the shower. You can do it whatever, wherever.
While you're brushing your teeth.
While you're brushing your teeth, however long it takes you. But just to do that, run through your day and say, this is what needs to be tweaked. This is what happens. Just get a sense, get clarity, and give your day a little bit of closure, knowing what went right and what went wrong.
And it's not beating yourself up if things went wrong. It's just acknowledging that maybe tomorrow could be better.
Okay, last slide. There's some other things that can give you a little bit of spirituality in your life throughout your day if you ever need to plug in. Throughout your day. Obviously, Shabbos, Shabbat, any sort of Shabbat observance would be certainly worthwhile every single year to figure out how you want to step it up a little bit. We can give a whole series on that. It's not the time now to expound on it. But I mean, the amazing benefits of Shabbat, of, unplugging for any amount of time and just connecting. I mean, it's becoming, people are becoming more and more and more and more aware about the power of Shabbat. I mean, this is the Jewish people's gift to humanity. And I strongly believe and pray that Shabbat is going to be something that's going to send global vibrations, out to the world, and you're going to see more and more people embracing the concept.
Yeah, and I said this on my Tuesday class, so for those of you who are there, but I just want to reiterate this point because I think it's so important, that I think people put themselves into boxes, like I am Shabbat observant, I'm not Shabbat observant, Shomer Shabbat, whatever. But really, like, as long as you're like making little strides, like little steps, like I think the example that I said in my class was like your iron, if you're not ironing on Shabbat, then your iron is Shomer Shabbat, and that's a part of you. And so part of your Shabbat actually is keeping Shabbat. It's not all or nothing, which is something that we talk about a lot, but just making sure that maybe there's something. So maybe as we go into Rosh Hashana this year, there's a little something that you want to add to your Shabbat, what it looks like. If you're not doing it much of the time, then maybe it's time to completely, or at least be cognizant of what you are and what you're not doing.
The next thing, it might be something that you're surprised to see on the list, but spiritual music. Even though there is no mitzvah to listen to, any sort of specific music, or the reality is, I don't know anyone who I would say strikes me as a spiritual person who does not find inspiration through their music. So music that lights your fire, music that opens up your heart, music that brings you closer to Hashem, closer to your soul. If it's music without any words, if it's music that has words of prayer, if it has, English lyrics that are meaningful to you, but music is a very, very strong conduit to bring out, to awaken the soul and to bring out feelings of spirituality. Connection to a tzaddik, to a holy person. We all have to have people in our life that I'm not even talking about studying with them, but just people that when we're in their presence, there's something, they light our fire. There's something about their aura that spreads and wakens up our heart and wakens up our soul. There are people like that. We need to find people that have that aura, that when we're just in their presence, we feel that they're speaking to us, even if we can't find them in person. But we live in the beautiful era of the internet, and people have filmed, and holy people, and you can find them doing their thing online. They can be teachers, they can be rabbis, they can be influencers, they can be musicians. Let's stay connected. Try to have some of their aura rub off on you. Obviously, classes, podcasts, videos. There's so many ways throughout the day. Like we spoke about a couple of nights ago, you have a couple of minutes throughout the day in your car. You turn something on that might light your fire. And then other options, obviously, prayer isn't just in the morning, but it's multiple times throughout the day. So if you're into prayer and you want to add on to your prayer experience and put in some of the other, these are all different options. Again, this is not all required. Obviously, with spirituality, is very, very personal. Everybody has to find the things that speak to them. Our goal with this class was really more just to provide you with the menu so that you see the full menu. And now you can take that menu and now you can say, okay, I like this, I like that, I like that. We have a new year. You're going to pick, 2 or 3 things and say, I want to make this part of my spiritual routine. And then you see slowly, spirituality compounds, right? Slowly, it makes a dent. It softens your heart and it makes a dent on your soul. Okay, sorry, I know that we went pretty overtime tonight. I want to thank you all for joining us for the series. We love you. We want to wish you a Shana Tova, Ksiva v'Chasima Tova, a happy and a sweet new year. And may Hashem, may God answer all of your prayers and shower down the blessings on you as much as you need and as much as good for you. And may the entire world come together and really, the coming year should be the greatest year that we've had in a long time, because my gosh, we know how much we really need it.
Absolutely. May it be a year of revealed blessing for everybody. Thank you so much for sticking with us for the series, and wishing you a happy and healthy, wonderful, sweet new year.